Now, as part of the whole pre-shading thing, besides making it darker, which I didn't really bother, but you would just go more with that. We'll make another layer, and we're just going to call this lighten, okay? And I'll make it diffuse, and basically I'm going to do this as a lighten layer. So I'm just going to keep my airbrush on, and we're going to go ahead and just make this a really warm kind of cream. And I am going to bigger, make sure my strength is super low, and I'm just going to add a little bit of this, particularly to things that are kind of sticking out on the edge. All right, so to lighten up the mood, if you will. Okay, so so like where these knobbers are would be a good spot. Okay, because they would have more wear and more sun exposure. So like the top of these would all have a little bit of this, okay? Especially right at the top, okay? Like that. Good. So we're just gonna kind of like that, where it's a little more wear. You want to have variation. When it's just one solid color, it looks very boring and not very good. So just trying to get any kind of variation I can, and pre-shading's kind of one of them. Alright, so even in here, I mean, I can kind of like do a little bit more there and a little bit more on this area, just to kind of make it look a little bit nicer. We'll do a little up here. Alright, so maybe right on these ends, just to kind of, okay, be careful obviously of getting too crazy with it, but it definitely helps. So I'm going to kind of lighten some of this in here as well. Let's take this down a little bit and lighten the ends of these a little. Okay, but I think you kind of get the idea. So you would kind of lighten the stuff. It just gives a little more dimension overall. All right. Okay. Now, what might make sense is actually to do what I would call a textured layer. Okay, texture. And hit OK, and actually I'm going to make another one, and this time I'm going to call this bump. Okay, and this is going to be a bump layer. I'm going to switch this to bump map. Okay, and then I will hit OK, and you're going to see it makes a new group. See, everything else is under this diffuse. Now this one's in bump. All right, now what this will allow me to do is make like imperfections using a bump map. So I can use a stencil or I can use a stamp. Okay, so a stencil will allow you to do this. So you click on one that you want. So like, let's say I do this one here, okay, which looks pretty cool. Now if you look over here, it'll tell you what the hotkeys are. So S and middle mouse button will move it. This will move it in and out, and then you can rotate it. Okay. So and I'll use this one as an example actually. Okay. So I'm gonna go like that, and I'll just bring it over here so you get kind of an idea. So what I'm gonna do is we're going to go use the paintbrush to do this, and make sure I got it on, and I'm going to click on my paintbrush again, and I'll make sure the color is white, okay? And then when I paint on it, alright, might be a little strong, so I'm going to take my strength down a whole ton. We'll try that. It will try to paint that on it, okay? Which is kind of cool. I'm going to click back on it over here and see if I can adjust. There we go. Flip vertical, use horizontal, use tiles. So I want to put use tiles on, that way it'll keep going across. I don't end up with that edge. But you can see I can kind of add this cool thing, right? So I'm going to hit Q to get rid of it so you can see it. It still will work, but it's just hidden. So I'm going to undo all that though, and I'm just going to show you. So what you can do is you can literally take your own images. So I could go on the internet and bring up the webs here. Let's see, let go over. No. Okay, used to. Okay, hang on a second. I'm going to bring this guy over here. I could look up an image. Okay, so we'll just do, we'll do, what's something, scratch texture. Okay, just look up scratch texture. Go to images. You want a black and white image. All right, and we will go with, we'll take this one. Okay. So obviously you should have the rights to these and everything, so make sure that it's actually, I'll even show you that. So if you just go to licenses and just do free to modify, share, and whatever, it'll only give you ones that people are okay with you using. So I'm going to go ahead and use, I'll try to find one that's kind of cool. We'll use this one. I just need something real quick. Alright, so, actually I don't like that one. Let's go back to this one. Alright. Okay, alright, I'm just going to go ahead and save it. So I'm going to save image as. JPEG or a PNG should work. Oh, it says DJP. Okay, so I'm just going to go ahead and put this on the desktop. You should probably put it on, make sure you change the name though. I'm just going to go scratchy surface. Okay, you should probably just save it into your source images folder. Or if you have like a file, you keep all those kind of images in. So I'm going to exit out of that. And then all I got to do is I'm going to click this off. That turns it off. If I hit this little arrow here, I can add a stencil. And then I can choose my stencil. So I got scratchy surface, open. And then cancel. I don't know what happened there. Add stencil. Oh wait, there it is. Never mind. I don't know. I must have hit something. But cancel. I can now click on it. There it is. There's that scratchy surface. Okay. So I am going to hold S and make it a little bit bigger. And now when I go to paint on it, oh, it's asking to do on it. Oh, because I undid the bump. All right, so I got to put bump back on. Sorry. And now when I go to paint on it, it's going to paint that surface on there, which is pretty cool. It's a cube so you can kind of see. All right, so you get this kind of neat carapace feel. Now, if you look at, you can see that that is coming out. I actually want it to go in. So when I go to paint on this, I can either hold control, which will actually do the opposite. So it should, okay, that's not going to work on this. So actually what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my color from white to black. Black will go in as opposed to out. So now when I go to paint on it, never mind, that didn't seem to work either. Okay, so I guess we'll have to keep it as white. So we'll keep it as white, done. And then what I'm going to do is on the image itself here, so I'll click on it. I'm going to go ahead and invert values, and that should help. You can't see that very well. Let's put that back on, and let me see, can I just, here we go, take the visibility down. Oh, here we go, other way. I'll take it down like this, and now when I go to paint on it, you can see it goes inwards as opposed to outwards, so scratches, okay? It's super hard to see, though. Let's just take visibility all the way off, take the multiplier down. So I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to take my strength down even more. So if I hold M, that's the strength of it, so I'm going to go real low, and then I'll just kind of paint on this, okay? And you can kind of see what it does there, okay? So that's kind of cool. So you can do your custom ones, or you can use ones that are in here. Now another thing you can do besides that is this, and so you get this kind of cool, you know, whatever pitted look, right? I can also go to stamp, and there's a bunch of stamps in here that I can use as well. And again, you can do the same thing. You can bring in your own images or whatever else. So I'm going to grab this kind of leafy texture, all right? And I am going to bring it into here and make this brush kind of big. I'm still on my bump. And, okay, so you see how it's dragging across. You can see it like repeating. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click on Randomize. See how that does. That's a little bit better. So what I'll do is it'll rotate it. It'll do all these things. Rotate it, scale it on X and Y. Or move it X and Y, scale it, and then, I don't know, change the other value here. I'm going to take my stamp distance, and what that'll do, I'll make this a little smaller, is it'll take longer between each thing instead of it dragging right after. So by doing that, it's stamping in bigger increments, and then you can kind of see I get this kind of cool veiny look, right? Which is kind of what I was going for. Is this good? I do have it mirrored. All right. And then afterwards, I can even go into, like, let's say up here, take my texture one, and I'm going to turn this off. Make sure you click off on stamp, make sure stencil's off. And I could go to my dry brush, all right? And I could take this and I'll make it like a really kind of blood look. And then if I, let's see, let's take the strength down a whole bunch. Okay, I guess I'll just use M. Should be able to, it's not really picking it up. I was hoping it would work. Well, it's not working that well. So it might be just make more sense to just do it manually. So I'll just take my paintbrush, and I can just kind of make it really small, and maybe use that as kind of a guide. Now my strength's really low on my paintbrush, so pull that back use it as a guide to more or less, oops, click on that color again, as a guide to more or less paint in, you know, those veiny details that I had in the texture. Okay, so you kind of like use that as one or the other. All right, so I can kind of like do this, and that would be kind of cool. All right, now that being said, so I could start painting in all sorts of other details and things like that. Now you can also, on this textured one, I can use these as well. So I could take this one here, and it will use the color that I select. So let's say I'm going to do it. Actually, let me find, I'm going to do this one. I like this one better. I'm going to take this one, and then I'm going to use, well, it's kind of purple, right? So I'm going to take this like deep kind of, actually, I'm going to make it more pale purple and bring it this way. Go more gray and light, okay? And then I can use that as, I'm going to take Randomize off. And hopefully this will, good. And then I'm also going to take stamp spacing. I'll either turn it off or bring it down. Now I can kind of draw this across. I can use the stamp to kind of use that as a way of drawing my strokes, okay? So they can have that pattern on them. If I decide like, oh, you know, that looks kind of cool, it gives it kind of more of like a what do you call it, striated look, you know what I mean? You do something like that as well, okay? You know, even do it here or something, that kind of a thing. And the same thing with the stencil. So if you really like the color or something, or I really like this and I want to put spots on my guy, so let me see if I have something else in here that's more spotty. I'll just use this one. Say I really like these spots. I could choose my brush here after I put the stencil up, and maybe I will grab and make it like a really deep blue. Alright, and yeah, so that should be fine. I'm going to make sure my stamp is off, because you don't want to, because you can have both on at the same time, and I don't really want that. And I could use that as a guide to paint, you know, these spots on here. There we go, and then just, you know, paint spots on this as well using those. Okay, so what I would suggest is finding you know, images, textures to work with, and then painting them on there. Okay, so I'm just gonna I'm just gonna turn this off, and then you end up with something that looks like this. Now obviously I did a really terrible job, it was super messy, but you can see how it's much more dynamic than what it was originally. And all I did was kind of use some of these things in here. Now when you're done, you're just going to go File, and you're going to go Send to Maya, Update Current Scene. And it should, oh, okay. So it wants you to, I'm going to hit Cancel. So I'm going to go to Sculpt. I'm going to make sure I have that selected, and File, Send to Maya, update textures and current scene. Nothing is selected. Entire scene. Okay, yeah. Sorry, I didn't see I said that. Then it's going to ask what it wants the file names and stuff to be named as. So I'm just going to say like color, right? Underscore di, or you know, we'll just say color, and then I'll just say bump. All right. So maybe it could be a little bit better naming, and then I'll accept that, and then yeah, default path. So that just means it's going to save it to there. Right now the path is up here, so I'd want to make sure that this goes, it's going to Mudbox. So I would click on this and make sure that it's going to your project. I don't have a project folder for this right now, but send it to the source images, okay? And just choose that, and then you hit OK, and then when you open up, it'll snap back to Maya. I'll just hit 6. And you can see there's my texturing, and you can see I got all the bump mapping and everything, and it looks really kind of not great, but it's still kind of a lot cooler than what it was, right? If I did a good job, it would actually look pretty neat. And then you would just save this, and you are good to go. So good luck.